Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of a global entrepreneurship business excellence coaching series. And I'd like to welcome everybody who's tuned in from the Bounce Back community, all the groups who are currently watching us, and of course, in our global entrepreneurship page. We're also live there. It's been really an exciting year for Bounce Back, and we've created a lot of programs, and this is one of the most exciting programs we have because we want to bring small businesses globally. Through even though we have a pandemic, small business can thrive and even grow their business globally, and this is the objective of our series is to teach you ways wherein you can overcome and rise above this crisis and grow your business both locally and globally. And are very excited about our main speaker today from the Global Chamber, who will bring his extensive knowledge on how entrepreneurs worldwide strive and thrive during the pandemic. Now, this program is brought to you exclusively by the BounceBack Network, by the Global Chamber Manila, the Business Enabling Tool, and Bluepoint Foundation, Dominguez Marketing Communications through the Digital Bayanihan initiative of BounceBack Philippines, BounceBack Academy, and Digital Bayan. And the series will have 10 episodes. We're already on the third, and those who will complete this and pass the exams will gain a certified global entrepreneur badge, digital badge from BounceBack. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce two guys, who will help us introduce our speaker today. Can you please help me welcome Colin and Dishan to the screen, please? Colin, Dishan,
Here we are
hello.
again. Hi, Jason. Nice
Hi,
to see you.
Jason.
Hi,
Hi, Colin.
nice to see you guys.
Hi.
I hope you're staying cool in this hot weather we're having.
Yeah, it rained, so
Yeah,
it's
that's
a bit
true.
cooler now, right?
It is. And Dushan, I
Yeah.
think you have the opposite problem, correct? It's cold where
Yeah,
you are.
yes, as the weeks are going by, you probably see I'm becoming a little bit more layered in my wear, in my clothing, right?
Yeah. So for the audience that's joining us for the first time, probably wondering what I'm talking about. So Dushan is based in Johannesburg, South Africa. He's the founder of a company called Business Enabling Toolbox, and also part of the Global Chamber family. I'm happy to say. And so Dushan, as Jason said, this is episode 3, very exciting. I'm sure we would like to encourage folks who didn't see episode 1 and 2 to view it on the Facebook page. Maybe you could make some comments about the terrific advice we got last week from my good friend Ray Luktu. And what were your thoughts on that, Dushan?
No, fantastic. Thanks, Colin. I think we've had, coming into episode 3, it's been great thus far. We've had a nice landing on obviously the mindset of organizations, or the owners within organizations, the mindset that you should be having to run your organization, as well as from a planning point of view, the business model canvas, which you touched on, the SWOT analysis, of what you could basically do to understand exactly the demographic of where you're playing within your organization. And Ray, further iterated on what you mentioned, or what you spoke about in our session, right, was around the business model canvas, and actually using that to look at segmenting or understanding exactly where your business should be targeting, for its revenues, and for product innovation and its customers, and that sort of thing. So without spoiling it and going a lot more into detail, I'd like to tell the viewers that if you've missed it, please subscribe to our global entrepreneurship group on Facebook, on LinkedIn as well, where you'll be able to see these episodes and catch up. It's really been great thus far, and we really have a great lineup of speakers moving forward.
Great, excellent. I totally agree. So good advice to the audience out there. So with that, and without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce today's featured guest. It's a longtime friend of mine joining us from the United States, from the hot and sunny state of Arizona. So if we could bring in Doug while I'm introducing him. So Doug Brunkhe is the founder and CEO of Global Chamber, So we've got the top guy, folks. He started this, and he's built out a worldwide network all around the world of global chamber chapters. I'm leading the one here in Manila, the Metro Manila chapter, and I'm still waiting to see Doug show up. We seem to have a black screen there, no camera. There he is. Anyway, as I say, I've known Doug. We first of all want to thank you very much. We'll need to somehow ship you some strong coffee, because I know it's something like 2 a.m. in Arizona. So for all of us here in the Philippines, Doug, we're very appreciative that you made yourself available. It speaks volumes. We're very, very pleased about that. I know our topic today is on how even small businesses can be global. But before we get to that, Doug, and I know you're going to give us some comments about it, maybe you could part of further introducing yourself. Curious to hear, why did you start Global Chamber? What was the whole idea behind Global Chamber, and why did you start it? If you could maybe just tell us that, and then feel free to give any additional background, and we're just very excited to hear from you. I think your camera's lagging a little bit, but I think the audio will probably be fine. So let's just press ahead. Doug, over to you. You're muted. Okay, stand by, folks, while we sort out the technology. Let's see, you came off mute for a second, but now it shows you're muted again. So while Doug's working on that, I'll just give a little bit of additional background. So as I mentioned, Doug is calling in from Phoenix, Arizona. That's actually where Global Chamber originated. It was the first chapter started by Doug himself, and then quickly grew to many states around the United States, including New York, Washington, D.C., all the major state capitals. And then, of course, branching here to Asia, throughout Europe, South America, really around the world. And now it's a network of literally millions of folks that are all, interested in how they can accelerate the growth of their businesses. So that's the essence. I'd encourage you, if you'd like more details about Global Chamber, to visit the website at globalchamber.org. It's not .com, it's .org. And let's give it a try again. Doug, are you able to join? Doug, you might, if you can hear me, if for some reason the lag is too bad, you might turn off your camera, and we'll go audio only first and see if that works better. And here I thought we had bandwidth issues in the Philippines. It turns out US, same thing.
Can you hear me?
Now we hear you.
Fantastic. I think if anything this pandemic has taught us is that we all have similar issues, right, on a global scale.
Yes, for sure. Hi, Doug, can you hear us? You might try turning off your camera and just go audio only.
Perhaps if you left the studio and rejoined.
Yeah. Could you type that in okay. He's in audio only now. Doug, can you hear us? If you can hear us, Deshen was suggesting that maybe you drop out of the stream and then rejoin. Maybe you'll get a better connection. I'm not sure. So I'll tell you what, we'll try. I'm sure we'll sort this out. So stay with us, folks. This is not live TV. This is live internet. So we'll just deal with it. So while we're trying to sort that out, Deshen, maybe we can just reverse our program a little bit and talk about what this Global Entrepreneurship Program is all about. Because I bet you we have a bunch of folks today who missed episode 1 and 2. So could you just tell us a little bit about, what is the BET component of this sort of partnership that we have between ourselves, the Global Chamber, and the fantastic folks at BounceBack and BET. What is a business enabling toolbox? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Colin. Without giving too much away, again, we urge you to please watch episode 1 and 2 and to join our groups to stay abreast of what's going on. But just to further expand on what Colin's asked is, BET is a digital coaching and advisory and business manager software or platform. It's web-based, and it basically assists you in growing, improving, and transforming your organization. So from an aspiring entrepreneur to entrepreneurs and SMEs, BET is there to sort of guide you through a self-diagnostic approach on what you should be doing within your organization. So we aim to teach you the what, why, and how. What needs to be done, why it needs to be done, and most importantly, how. I think in the times that we face, I think the what and why is very clear in most cases, but the how and the execution is where the ball usually falls, right? And BET is there to basically keep you honest, for the lack of a better word, on what you should be doing within your organization, why, and then how you should be actually going about executing it. BET is available, or the functionality within the platform, to actually allow you to monitor performance within your organization real time as well. So you're always working with a proactive mindset as opposed to reactive. And I think, Colin, that's been a clear message from all our episodes that we've had thus far, right? In episode 1 and 2, it's about having a proactive approach as opposed to a reactive approach,
That's
especially
right.
with the business landscape changing at such a rapid pace, right? It's how quick can you pivot your organization and adapt to what this new norm has in store for us, right? And I think, if anything, we've seen that overnight lots can happen, with lockdowns and all those sorts of things. So the aim of the program as well, getting into that leg, and how BET and the Global Chamber and BounceBack actually fit in, is that we came together. I think we've been having these conversations for a few months now, Colin, with the Global Chamber, and then obviously more recently with BounceBack, and is how could we bring in organizations and assist them with exactly that, and that's bouncing back. So using it, by providing it through a community type approach with the bounce back community, with the global outreach of and collaboration through the Global Chamber, and using BET as a tool, we found that our tripartite relationship was actually a no-brainer for us, because it allowed just for that, for organizations to bounce back into a system in growing globally as well as within their organization. So
That's right.
we do have the EAP program for those that are interested. There are a few spots left, which we call the early adopter program. The link will be shared, where you could get onto the program. BET have sponsored 100 subscriptions to that program for anyone that's interested. For those who have time constraints or other constraints, BET have also pledged a 70% discount on our growth subscriptions for the bounceback communities far and wide, not only within the Philippines but globally. And we hope that you take up the opportunity, because we feel that now more than ever, you need all the support and help that you can get, right? And with the community that we're planning to form and continue to form on a daily basis, we hope that we are just that, the sounding board for you, for your
That's right.
organization to be bouncing back.
Yeah, fantastic, Deshan. And I think we'll hopefully return. I think what you're doing is very exciting. BET is new to us here in the Philippines, but I know it's not new in the global community. And let's return back to that. I have a couple of questions additionally for you on that topic, but I do think we have Doug back now. Hi, Doug. I don't know if you caught any of my intro before, or if it was lagging and you didn't hear my intro. Could you let me know?
Can you hear me now, Colin?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay.
I can see you,
The
we can hear
problem
you.
is browser. I found out in my second login that it doesn't support browsers other than Chrome, and I was using
okay. Well, there we go.
I think that
Sorry,
was.
we didn't warn you about that. I wasn't aware of that either, but noted for future. So let me just.
I did hear the introduction, and I did try to talk. There was some lag, and then the mute button wouldn't unmute.
Okay.
so I logged out,
Well,
and when I logged back in, it mentioned about Chrome only. So it's all good now, it sounds like.
All good. All right, Doug. So then, anyway, just to remind the audience, then you heard my intro. So I was explaining earlier because some people may have just joined us, by the way, in the last few minutes. So Doug Brunkhe is in Arizona, in the hot and sunny state of Arizona. He founded Global Chamber. He's built this phenomenal network all around the world. I'm very honored to be leading the efforts here in the Philippines and Metro Manila but this is a network that extends everywhere. And Doug, you're going to tell us a little bit about how small businesses can be global too. But before you do, I was just asking you, what made you start Global Chamber in the first place? That might be a good way to give a little context.
I appreciate it, Colin, and thanks for the opportunity. Great to see you, Dishan, and thanks for BounceBack Philippines and our other partners in putting this together. It actually, for the same reasons probably that you've put this program together, I was driving across the desert between California and Arizona 6 years ago, and I got inspired by small businesses that I recognize have the opportunity. Many of them have the opportunity to go global. And you think about the world that typically 95 to 99% of business opportunity is outside of our country. There's so much opportunity there. Clearly, we can't get all of it, but we can get some of it if we're really smart about it. And I started to think about what are some of the things that I could do to make it better? I had just been to a wine and cheese event with the World Trade Center in San Diego, and I was thoroughly disappointed on all levels in connecting internationally. And I thought there's got to be a better way to connect up with the right people, the right clients, the right resources to be able to be successful. And having been involved with almost certainly over 30 years internationally, I recognize that there are plenty of ways to fail. I've seen dozens of them, and that's not a good experience, and we don't want that. So finding ways for entrepreneurs not to fail and to find new clients and to be successful, that really was the driving force. And so hence Global Chamber was born, and for 6 years now we've been growing around the world and helping businesses all over be more successful and fail a lot less.
Oh, outstanding. Great to hear the motivation. So Doug, what are your thoughts, here in the Philippines, it's actually, pandemic aside, it's always been a very exciting place to be. I've been here 20 years because there's tremendous entrepreneurial spirit. There's so many small businesses, everything from street vendors on up, the Filipino people are very creative and they're also very globally aware because, as you probably know, there are Filipinos everywhere, the overseas workers, I'm sure in Arizona and in California, there's many Filipinos. But oftentimes we kind of think too narrowly and think, oh, okay, well, I've got a small business. I can only sell, on my street or my backyard or my local neighborhood. But that's not true anymore. So could you just share with us your thoughts about, everything from mindset, but then to more practical advice about what is possible for a small business these days?
Sure. I think you framed it properly, that there is opportunity, there is potential, and yet, we also want to be realistic. Today, you asked me to give a few thoughts, and I put together a 12-step program for going international. And number one, really is framed around, being realistic. I think one of the failure modes I've seen over the years is being too optimistic. I'm an optimistic person. And yeah, I probably am sometimes not as realistic as I need to be. My wife, when I started Global Chamber, thought I was crazy, quite honestly. She's the kind of person, unless it's in her hand, like physically in her hand, it doesn't exist. And, many times those of us who are entrepreneurs, we have this idea, right? We have this vision, and in our minds, our vision is already happened, right? We can see it so clearly, and we've thought about it enough that it's there, and so when I explain Global Chamber to her, or any of you as entrepreneurs, when you explain your idea and the progress you're making and what you're doing to someone who is one of those people who has to have it in their hand, it can be a very frustrating experience, especially if it's your wife. We just celebrated our 39th anniversary. So those of you who are married or have a significant other that you've been with for a long time, even your parents, right? people within your family, you sometimes have differences between you and them in terms of your worldview. I think it's really important to recognize that you as an entrepreneur, you probably are going to be a little bit more visionary and than others, and so that brings up several different issues. Number one is you have to have a kind of a clear feet on the ground, and also probably have a mentoring community around you to do reality checks for yourself. Not to discourage you, because that's the other side of it, is you can have people around you. In fact, you will have people around you saying, this is never going to be successful. I had my wife saying that for the first 3 years of Global Chamber, directly and indirectly. And you probably all as entrepreneurs experience that, where you get, I guess, what they call the haters, right? As you make progress, you get people kind of bad mouthing you and saying things behind your back and hoping that you'll fail. And so you as an entrepreneur need to keep pushing forward and moving forward. So there are a lot of factors just in a normal business, let alone now taking on the world. And that's a big task. And so definitely, I'll start my conversation by saying, first and foremost, be real, and have people around you, but don't let them discourage you. Make sure that, in whatever you're doing, that if you really feel this in your heart that you're going to be successful, and if you really commit to saying, look, I can be successful. I've looked at this, I've studied this, it can happen, and I'm gonna persevere through this. If you have that attitude, almost invariably you will make it happen. And that's, I can tell you from watching other entrepreneurs be successful, and quite honestly, through Global Chamber, the first 3 years there were some pretty rough moments. The last 3 years have been a lot better. And so I knew in year 4, when my wife came in and she saw some of the numbers of what was happening, she came in and she told me very, very straight face, she said, this Global Chamber thing, I think it's going to be really successful. It's like, yeah, I think so too. These are some of the things that not everybody is fully up to speed with with you. But when they are on your side, that probably means things are going pretty well. It also means you probably still need to get reality checks. You still need to have mentors around you to make sure that you don't fall off track. And it's more important when you're international, because the opportunities to fail are more. The risk is more. Some of the things that you're doing create potential issues that could be the end of your business in a more readily way. So be careful, but have a community around you.
That's awesome, Doug. Very sober advice. But what I also heard in there is this notion that we talked to Shan right about in the first episode, which is perseverance and that mindset. Don't be discouraged. Believe in what you're doing, but at the same time, have people around you that are also keeping your feet on the ground, that you're staying realistic as well. So Doug, it sounds like it's a balance, right? Because on the one hand, you're saying, don't let people be the haters and talk you out of it, but at the other hand, stay realistic. So I think we've got that. That's sort of your first point. So once you've got that in place, where do we go next? You said you have a multi-point program.
Yeah, and by the way, that magic part is, it's hard to define how to find that, right? It's, all of us, who are entrepreneurs, we've worked through that ourselves. We find people that are resources, and then we realize they weren't good. We have others that we maybe didn't really think too much about, but they end up being amazing resources for us. And so that first part of it definitely is to keep connecting, keep adding people to your community, having conversations with people, and recognize that this is an important part of the entire process of having, let's say, an advisory board, having people that are informal advisors for you, et cetera. So one of the things about international, over half of companies that do export are accidental exporters. And so what that means is, you've started a business, you may not have typically have not too much thought about the world, and then something happens that creates an export somewhere, Germany or some other country. Your cousin is, Filipino in Spain, and suddenly now they introduced you to somebody and you're exporting. And that creates very often normally a question in your mind of, hey, if I can do that, I can do the rest of Spain, and I can do Spanish speaking countries, and I can maybe other English speaking countries, or so it starts to build that kind of a process. And so it's better to think about all of that ahead of time, but quite honestly, at least if you're exporting, you should at least think about what are some of the possibilities and how should I plan. I think in your conversations that you had in really both sessions, but especially the first one where you talked about being an entrepreneur and having plans and having strategy and building a multifunctional team. These are things that are really important as entrepreneurs. And now it just becomes plus. You really need to make sure that you're really prepared. So after that kind of realistic, am I ready type of mentality, the next step is, okay, so where do I go? What's next? If you haven't exported, where outside the Philippines makes the most sense? Should I jump just across the water here to Malaysia or Indonesia, or should I go into the US? Or my cousin is in Germany, so maybe that's the place. And so there is actually a science, an art and a science, I guess I would say, about deciding where you're going to export. We just recently had, and I think, Colin, Jagat Shah, Dr. Jagat Shah out of Ahmedabad, India, and he's our global advisor for us and very supportive of Global Chamber. Just love him to death. And recently had him speak about actually the art and science of marketing research. So the next step after you've kind of grounded is, let's really think scientifically, but also ultimately artistically once we have our plan of where we're going to go next. And I encourage you to go to the Global Chamber blog. I think it may have been May 1st or certainly earlier in May. He spends about 85 minutes going through the best explanation of market research for a small business that I've seen, where he explains really quite graphically in a positive way, here are the things you need to think about. Here's the research that you need to do. I think any of us, at least I'll speak for myself. One of the things about business that I really like is that I've got a product and service, and then there's all these different markets, and the complexity, the challenge, the whole art of figuring out where do I match up my product and service to all of these markets. And you have the additional complication of you could actually change. In fact, very often you might change or modify your product or service to go after a market. So you've got all of these factors coming in. And I think, Colin, this is probably one of the reasons why you've been successful, because of your chemical engineering background, and your mind thinks that way, right? It's not necessarily simple. You could pick one country and just go with it with whatever product you have. That's the simple answer, right? It's like, I'm going to Malaysia and I'm going to sell my product as is, and that's it. Or you can take the Jagat Shah approach and say, what are the next 5 countries that I need to look at, and look at product, service, maybe some alterations and modifications, and then pick the 5 most profitable, less risk. Look at the countries where it's going to make the most sense. And if you really do a good job on it, it's not a trivial exercise. It's something that takes more than just a few minutes. It's really thinking about it hard and talking it over with somebody like Jagat on the market research side. And we have a number of resources like that within Global Chamber where that's what they do, right? They look at that problem all the time. And if you're not as familiar with that, with the marketing, sales, logistics, all of the different factors involved with going global, it's probably a good idea to speak with someone, probably a market research expert, to at least talk it through. And you might want to have them take a look, especially if you like look at something and say, well, I think these are the next 5, at least doing a reality check with somebody. And like I said, we've got those people in Global Chamber. Just have them take a look at it and see if whether your logic is really sound and good. And now you've got the beginnings of a plan. You've got a plan to go after this beast, and you've got the specifics of which country and which product and service, and now you can start and take the next step.
Yeah, that's awesome. We talked in the first episode and probably in the second as well about this idea of being intentional. Let you figure out what you want to do. Don't just let it happen to you, and walk through. And I think one of the challenges which might prevent small businesses from thinking that they can go down this path is, if you're a large enterprise, large company, you have people. You've got the marketing folks and the sales folks and the product folks and the research. You've got all these resources, all this expertise and all this knowledge. If you're a small business, maybe it's just yourself, maybe it's 5 people, maybe it's 10. You don't have all of that. So, but that doesn't mean that you're alone, right, Doug? So how do people get access to the information that they need? The country, you said, do your homework, do your research. How do you go about that? How do you get access to those answers?
Yeah, it's something that we all face as small businesses, right? And those of us, maybe not all of us have done this, but I had the good fortune to be with a big company. It's called the DuPont company, a multi-billion-dollar U.S. company. And to Colin, your point, really all the resources were there. And when the story I tell on that is the day I left DuPont, when I did an early retirement, I really felt naked. I had really didn't fully understand what I had gotten out of that experience. And, things like, for instance, early in my career, so 33 years ago, I was a young engineer and I spoke in front of 300 people in China about automotive products, because I was involved with automotive for many years, like materials for automotive products. 300 people in China came out to listen to Doug Brunkhe. When I was just this young nobody. I'm an older nobody, but back then it was, how could that possibly happen? Well, DuPont had been in China since 1917, and the relationships over that time have built. We don't understand that as entrepreneurs, right? Everything we have is new. So the fact that this big company had been there for like 100 years, brought all these people out, and lo and behold, off we go. We don't have the benefit of that, right? As entrepreneurs, we've got to figure out how to take what we know, surround ourselves with people who know things that we don't know, and we move forward. And so it goes back to our earlier point. If you're out of a sales role, or you're out of an accounting role, or you're a lawyer, or whatever you ended up being before you were an entrepreneur, or if you just came right out of school and you have a functional capability, you still don't know everything. You can't know everything. So you have to be surrounded by people who can really help you get to the next level. Above and beyond that, you've got not just the functions, but you've got things around leadership and how do I pull a team together and how do I communicate and all of those things. So those are all really key elements of really kind of the first 2 points of this 12-step program is, am I ready? Recognizing that I can't do everything, so I've got to pull people in along the way. Probably don't have the money to do all of that in the beginning. Maybe you do. That's great. Most entrepreneurs don't. but along the way, just be ready to weave them in. And those are elements of, again, going back to Global Chamber is, wow, I'd like to be able to make those things available to people when they can afford them and as they can afford them, so they can reduce risks. So they know when they pull in a resource that they can trust the resource. That is another failure mode that I've seen over the years, is people either don't take a step that they should. I had an entrepreneur call me on the way into Mexico. I didn't know it at the time. I was just on the phone with this person. I hadn't talked to him for a while, early member of Global Chamber. And, it turns out he was headed into Mexico to do a deal, to set up a manufacturing plant. And it's like, well, okay, well, like, who are you meeting with? And the only person he had set up a meeting with was a commercial real estate person. He didn't know anything about taxes or accounting or how to hire people. He needed a building, and so, well, there's several steps ahead of that you need to know. And his, it was like, oh, really? Okay. So we walked through some of those things. And then while he was there, he did ended up meet the commercial real estate person, but then he met, an attorney, and he also met, a couple other people that seemed to be an appropriate person for him to know. It's not shameful that I don't think it's shameful that he was trying. One of the things that entrepreneurs need to do is don't try, just get it done. I think all of us know that, some of our best, most rewarding successes are that, we didn't just kind of sit around and send some tweets out, right? Or just kind of talk through our idea and it never became something. My dad, he came out of corporate in IBM, and he talked for, all my time I was growing up on how he was going to start his own business, and he never did. And by my grandfather, he was 50 years old and he had a partner, but he didn't own a business. And the partner, he overheard one time at lunch say, Joe, he's not going to be a partner. He's not going to be part of the business. And he picked up his lunch and, he took his shirt and he went home and he started his own business. And so those are the things I think that entrepreneurs understand, right? It's like, we don't mess around. We just, we think about things, and being practical, especially on the global side, is really important. But at the end of the day, we get stuff done. And when you're getting stuff done on the international stage, make sure that you have that surrounding resource pool that you can tap into along the way. And that's a lot of the reason why Global Chamber is here.
Yeah, you mentioned a word that I really want to underscore, which is trust. Building trust between individuals and building out that network. And if I can just sort of unabashedly say, one of the things I've really enjoyed about being part of the family, I really consider it a family of Global Chamber, is not only how willing people are to help, which is really awesome, but also that I can rely, on the folks who are in the network, that we have that trust. And I can see you're ready, Doug. We're going to have to bring you back for maybe several more episodes, because I think we're 2 points into a 12-point program. But I want to bring in Deshen as well from South Africa. Deshen, maybe you can sort of be the reactor a bit to what's been said. But also, I know, you, of course, your business itself, BET itself, is entrepreneurial and growing around the world. I think you're sort of the case study, if you will, if I can use you for that, during this episode, of what's possible. You're not just taking BET, in Johannesburg, but you're taking it to the Philippines and all around the world. And tell us, how does that map against the points that Doug has briefed us about? How did you find those points?
So I think, Colin, it was definitely music to my ears, right? Because I think we spoke about this in episode 1 and 2 about it being intentional, the grit that's needed, and also not forgetting why you actually set out to be an entrepreneur. I think many times you become despondent, and you will be despondent. It will be a lonely journey. It will be a journey that will test you, try you to the ends of the earth, But every morning when you wake up, you've just got to keep doing, as Doug's mentioned. And for us, it's finding that space between opportunity and reality, right? What is the opportunity and what is the reality of actually getting that opportunity? And that's how we've seen, for example, with BET, day by day chipping away at a mountain. I mean, some days much better than others, but for the larger part over the last few years, it's been a fantastic journey. Being going into the global chamber space, for some time, having many conversations with Doug, yourself as well. I can say that it is warm, trusted connections, and business should be all about collaboration, because I find very often a large mistake with entrepreneurs is that they try to do everything themselves, and you don't play to your strength. And I think that's the biggest failure. Play in the space that you're actually good at, and leave everything else or for the advice or the guidance from your mentors or the communities that you are involved in, because you cannot be a jack of all trades, right? And very often we find ourselves working in our businesses where we actually don't have time to work on our businesses. And I think with the fast-paced business landscape, in the way things are changing and the opportunities that are missed, we should be looking at working on our businesses. And that's where the networks such as the Global Chamber come into play, because you're able to understand at a global scale what is needed for your organization to take it to that next level of growth. And as I mentioned with Doug, I mean, we've had many conversations. I mean, in the Philippines, in Southeast Asia, in the US, in Singapore. We pretty much have subscribers across all the main continents around the world, over 10,000 subscribers currently. And what's opened our eyes as a business from Johannesburg, South Africa, having our own challenges, is what is needed for our business to be on that scale. And that came through the many conversations that have been had with trusted members of the Global Chamber themselves onto what we should be looking out for our business. And I think that's important for business owners to actually keep in mind. You've got to be open to adapting and pivoting your business model in a direction which could be a complete 180 in the next day, right? But if you want to be able to play on that scale, or be able to go into a different market, or identify various opportunities, you've got to be adaptable, and be able to sort of roll with it, and not very often we have plans. I can show you some of the plans that we had about 5 years ago for BET, and when we look back at those plans now, you think, oh my word, we've done a complete sort of pivot on it, and not in a bad way, right? And which is a good thing, because you should be evolving your business. And that's again where having mentorship and having communities as support, and having really just ears on the ground, could really help to take your business to the next level of its performance.
Yeah, excellent. So Doug, we still have plenty of time. Probably not to get through all 12, but let's say now, if people are paying attention, that they've kind of absorbed this point number one about finding that balance between your optimism and realism, pressing forward, being it in, having the grit to go in the long haul, and then understanding, okay, I've got to do my homework, right? So I think that's something we're really trying to drive home. Do your homework. Do the research on the export markets. As Doug said, pick 4 or 5. Know why you're picking those 4 or 5, and then the next step, I think that I heard, was, okay, now build your network around that. Get some local experts. Whether we help you with that, or if you find some other way, obviously we'd like you to think that you'll let us help you with that. Let's say that's done now, Doug. So you've kind of got those locations picked out. You've got some good advisors around you. Where do we press ahead next? Where do we go from there?
It might be appropriate, given kind of where we are in today's program. I'll run through the remaining 10, and then we can circle
Excellent.
back on the ones that you feel are the
Awesome.
best to emphasize, because you hit the right points. Am I ready? Number 1. Number 2 is, where do I go and do the art and science of that? And then beyond that, there are a number of functional, specific pieces of help that you need. And Colin, in fact, both of you, I think, pointed out the importance of not relying on yourself for everything. However, in the beginning, you rely on yourself for everything, right? So there's that kind of whole world that we're in. So number 3 would be, how am I going to sell? Am I going to go direct, or am I going to go indirect? Am I going to do it on a website through a digital approach? You need to figure out how to sell. Number 4 is, how do I price it? And pricing is also an art and science, right? As soon as you set a price, that you try to raise it. That's really a tricky thing. So you want to make sure that you go in with your eyes open, market by market, and set the price. And there's a whole series of things. We could do a whole show on pricing, I think, right? In terms of not just how to set it, but then how to manage it, and then how to react to currency fluctuations and things like that. So number 4 is pricing. Number 5 is distribution. So if you've got a product or even a service, you've got to figure out, how am I going to get this to market, and then how am I going to support complaints or returns or other elements that come up, mainly on the product side, but even on the service side, there are issues that come up that need to be handled. So how are you going to do that? Number 6 is, and this is, by the way, not necessarily in order of priority. I think all of these are important, and number 6 is really important: legal. You have to have good contracts. I don't know how many people have come to me thinking that they could do an international contract on their own. You can't. Unless you're an attorney, probably even if you're an attorney, don't even think about it. Go to an attorney for your international contracts. Don't even think twice about it. And I've heard, I don't even want to get there. Maybe hundreds of people try to do it themselves. Don't do it, because there are just so many things that can go wrong. And beyond just contracts, you've got intellectual property that you want to protect as well. And so a lot of times people jump into a market and they haven't really thought about protecting things country to country. And again, we can talk about that one, especially now, because Global Chamber, there's a couple of crazy people in the world who've tried to copy what we're doing. And in fact, one of them even copied our tagline, not just the name, but the tagline. And when I saw it a few weeks ago, I was like, seriously, wow, that's flattery is what, the ultimate form of or what is it? Imitation is the ultimate form of flattery. But you take somebody's trademark, which we have, and that's illegal. And but that's only because we thought about that in the beginning. And got a registered trademark. And those are some of the things that you need to think about with your attorney around your business.
Yeah, and I'll interject, Doug. I'll interject that actually it's episode 9 or 10. I forget which one, but you can see it on our Facebook. We have we have an attorney from Duran Schultz Law. We're going to have a whole episode just exactly on your point about making sure you understand the legal side of it. So stay tuned.
I looked
folks,
at the remaining schedule: digital strategy, leadership, analytics, artificial intelligence, legal, and financial. And so, right. I mean, that in itself is a great framework that you guys put together to do that. So definitely attend that 9th session. Number 7 is, and I think I saw it in here, maybe not, tax and accounting, right? So it's, the painful, it has to be done, right? You got to pay your taxes, you got to have your accounting. And as a sales marketing guy, that's not my strength. It may not be your strength either, but make sure you have the capability to do that. Number 8, marketing, branding. My own experience on this is that most people don't do a good job with this. And they either chintz on the marketing side, probably don't know marketing like they should. I strongly recommend that one of the early steps is to get involved with a marketing person that really knows what marketing is about. And there again, entrepreneurs, there are efficient resources in the early days that you can use to be successful. So that's one of the things that you really need to think about, especially if you don't know marketing, to have that base covered. Number 9, talent acquisition and management of people. How do I hire? How do I fire? How do I pay people in other countries? These are all issues that there's a layer of complexity that's higher when you're doing international business. And it also relates to intellectual property, because if you have a hire in Thailand and they now potentially have your intellectual property, and so how do you control that and manage that? So it is a hiring, firing, intellectual property business control issue. Number 10, probably number one in your heart, getting paid. How do I get paid? How do I, first of all, ask for the order? How do I make sure that if things go wrong, I somehow get paid? So there are insurance programs available, especially when you're shipping product, that you can use. I wasn't able to find a Philippine export-import bank, but I would bet there's something like it, or there's certainly private companies like Euler Hermes that have credit insurance and others, programs like that you can tap into. When you're shipping internationally, it's different from across the street, right? If they don't do something and they're a customer of yours across the street, you can walk across the street and have a conversation. When that's, in some other country like Germany, it's a lot less easy. It's not easy to handle that and to manage that if things go wrong. And so things go wrong. So you have to be not just prepared, but you have to have kind of your ducks in a row to realize that things will go wrong. And then number 11, we kind of touched on this, but I think it's a really important separate point. Know all the resources. So you need to know them in the beginning. You don't know them. Nobody knows all the resources. But you at least get some of the main ones. As you go along, keep adding to the portfolio of people, because now that you're selling internationally, if you're selling in Germany, you need a lawyer in Germany. And so again, there's something that Global Chamber is all about too, is our team around the world is well connected in all these cities, and being well connected means they know the bank, they know the lawyer, they know the accountant that you need to talk to, and those are important people. Not that, to Colin, to your point on trust, not that suddenly everybody, in your new world, even in Global Chamber, is trustable. I would say, if they're in Global Chamber multiple years, pretty sure, near 100% that you can trust them. However, you're always doing due diligence, right? Because they may be good and capable and you could trust them, but also they may not be the right resource for you. So you're always asking those questions in your mind about, is this the right person for me? And if it's not, or you have a question, that's the thing about what Colin, you mentioned. You can talk to somebody at Global Chamber to say, this accountant, I'm not sure he knows our business or our type of our market segment as well as he should. Do you know somebody who knows this industry? Yeah, we know a few people. So those are the things that you need to do along the way. And then finally, number 12, our tagline, which was recently stolen. However, he did send me a message over the weekend, and he took it down. And this is really funny. So the tagline in number 12 is "Be global and unstoppable." So I noticed this a few weeks ago, where he had, he copied our name with a couple little changes, and then "Be global and unstoppable." And it's like, really? I mean, it's one thing to be accidentally kind of like our name, but to take the tagline, dude, seriously, that's like, I don't even know what to say. So I actually found out I was connected to him in LinkedIn. So I send him a message in LinkedIn. There was another one that I have just the attorney take care of, but this one is like, I'm going to talk to this guy. Like, it's like, well, how? So he sends me a message this weekend after a few days. He says, well, somehow that happened. It must have been accidental, and I've taken that down. So his new tagline is have trust globally. And trust is in quotations. So he must not understand irony, but when he puts trust in quotations, right, it's like, dude, you're saying it all with trust in quotations. We don't trust you. we get it.
Have trust. Yeah. That's funny,
Trust
Doug.
me. No,
Trust me.
no, we don't trust you. You stole something. Stealing is not okay. So, in business, we do watch a lot of things that happen, and when I say, as entrepreneurs, we try to be as creative as we can, right? And a lot of our ideas come from looking at what other people are doing and then modifying it to fit into what we're doing. So that's okay, but stealing is not a great idea. So be global and unstoppable, and that's really the final point. And it goes back to the beginning that says, don't try, get it done. Do it the professional way by being involved with a network that you can trust, that has the right resources. You already know the journey. You need all of these things. And so don't kind of wait till the last minute when you're exporting in 5 countries to realize you needed credit insurance, because that last shipment you're not going to get paid for, and now you're potentially going to go out of business. So there are things that you need to be doing all along the way to not just grow, but to protect yourself and to continue to build. And so my final point on that is going back to why be an entrepreneur and why are we even doing this, right? And it goes back to, my dad, who, worked for a big company his entire life. And then, of course, me looking at that, I went into a big company as well. But then I realized, thinking about my grandfather, who, at 50 years old, started his own company, he had a legacy. He created something that was really amazing. And, as you get older in life, probably many of you are very young, it's less important, and it's harder to see when you're younger, I think. But as you get older, you realize that we only are here for a short amount of time. It passes just in a blink of an eye. And so why not during that time have an impact? Why not create value in whatever you're doing? And why not create something that's yours and different and ultimately adds value, right? It does. I mean, you can create something, and if it doesn't add value, quite honestly, I'm not sure the value of that to anybody. You want to create value, but at the end of the day, if you can create value and help people be successful, and you can come into work every day and get feedback from people that you've impacted them positively in whatever you're doing, what's better than that? I strongly encourage it, but just do it with your feet on the ground and make sure that that there's a lot of things that you're going to need to do along the way. So let's work together and make it happen.
Wow, Doug. That's just awesome. You did it. That's why you're the guy. You got through all the first 11 points, very pragmatic, practical advice. Actually, a lot of what you said maps very well into the remaining topics we have coming up, each of our weekly episodes. We will touch on the accounting issue as well. And then you left us with number 12, which is inspirational. This be unstoppable. It's a mindset. And you pulled it all off right in our allotted time as well. So I think we should have a special digital badge for you as well, not just for our program, but for pulling that off. So I know it's really in the early hours of the morning already there. So I think we could probably leave it there. Doug, thank you so much for joining us today. Deshaun and I will cover a few up and coming things for people to watch for our upcoming episodes. But we'll let you go and find your pillow. Thank you very much, Doug.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Dishan. Thanks also to Jason and Sam for collaborating on this. Love what you're doing. Looking forward to the remaining 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 programs, I think, right?
That's right. 7 more to go.
Congratulations on putting that together. Definitely, everybody listen in on those. And by the end of this, looking forward to hearing some success stories in the coming months and years.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Everybody.
Cheers. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
All right, folks. Well, there you heard it from the top, from the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. Doug's lived all over the world. He's lived here in Asia, Japan, Singapore. He's done business in Asia. So he's no stranger to how we do business here. And he's got a 12-point plan. I'm going to follow up with him Dijen and ask him to send me the 12 points. We'll post it
Yes.
onto
Yes.
our
Fantastic
materials
idea.
and onto our website as well. And I'll put in the last plug on his behalf, www.globalchamber.org. It's not .com, .org, and you can find us there. So, Dijen, while we were having some technical difficulties, I was asking you to sort of give a recap about BET, which you did. I think what we could maybe underscore, and you were just saying it as Doug came back, we have this early adopter program. So again, we have a lot of new viewers today. What's this early adopter program? Can you explain it and how people can participate?
Yeah, sure, Colin. So it's for those that are hearing about this for the first time. It's a program that we've put together in conjunction with BounceBack, BET, and the Global Chamber, as well as our other partners as well from the media and PR industries. And what we plan on doing is we are looking at certifying global entrepreneurship or providing global entrepreneurship badge for attendees who listen to episodes that we are airing on a weekly basis, who take up exams that are published usually at the end of the episodes, and who pass these exams, right? In addition, you also have the access to BET. You've got access to the BounceBack community, and you've got access to the Global Chamber at a ridiculously a very reduced rate, actually. Colin, you'll get into that at a later stage. But you've got access to this network, and this is exactly what Doug mentioned. It's to help you with the 12-point plan. Very often I I listen to a few of those things, Colin, and I'm myself so guilty of not following through on a lot of those items, right? Because you're usually on a daily basis pulled in so many different directions, and we put this program together just to help you with that. Go through that 12-point plan, which Colin will share. Once we receive it from Doug, and use the resources that we provide you through BET, the Global Chamber, through BounceBack to help you within your organization. So we have the early adopter program, and we have a few spaces left. So if you are interested, we will be sharing the link, or you could visit our social media profiles on LinkedIn and Facebook, Global Entrepreneurship or Global and Entrep, if I'm not mistaken, Colin, the handle
Yes,
for
Global
that.
Entrep PH, yeah.
PH, and you
Global
could
Entrep
base
PH on Facebook.
Yes, and you could basically sign up to our EAP program and have access to these. And for those that are not, are not able to do so, you still have access to the Global Chamber and BET as well, and to the BounceBack community with BET at a reduced rate of 70% on all our grow plans. We've pledged as well a percentage of the revenues generated to go to COVID relief in the Philippines. For Global Chamber as well, at a discounted rate, I think around 50%, if I'm not mistaken, on your side. So you still have access to this, should you not be able to attend the EAP program. And this is just the first phase. We are looking at second and a third phase, but this is the Adapt phase, as we call it, for the EAP program. And we look forward to seeing you on the program and helping you within your organization.
Yeah, excellent. So I'm going to look right into the camera now to you watching out there in Facebook land, and just encourage you, don't miss out on this. As you've heard, this BET platform has actually been used by thousands of businesses around the world. It's new here to the Philippines, and we have the most remarkable opportunity through the early adopter program for you to take fully advantage of that with, as he said, a 70% discount code, as well as 50% off on the Global Chamber annual membership as well to connect you into this. So if you're looking to be a global entrepreneur, take advantage of this resource. So I think our time is up. We've actually gone a little bit over because of that technical issue. So thanks for staying with us. I think we do have a little bit of a video. Is that right? To wrap up here, we can just we're going to run that video. Yeah, so we're going to run just a very brief video for all of you on behalf of everyone at BounceBack, at BET, at Global Chamber, and all of our other partners as well. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Don't mark your calendar now, the same time next Wednesday, and for the future weeks as well while you're at it. So thanks very much again for joining us from Johannesburg. Thanks to all. We'll roll the video now, and stay healthy, everyone out there, and stay safe. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Do you want to have the foresight of Warren Buffett or Steve Jobs? Growing your business couldn't be easier. BET's unique and easy-to-use platform is your ultimate business companion. Available whenever you need it, no matter where you are, 24/7.
And who wouldn't want their business to do better? Whether you want to expand, increase sales, or spread out to new locations, it's important to know what you need to do, why you need to do it, and how you should do it.
BET gives you all the essential tools that you need to maximize your profits. Keep track of your finances, target the right customers, become an exceptional leader, assess risk, and set goals for your business. Cross-device functionality and a comprehensive toolbox of downloadable pre-populated templates are just some of the benefits of BET.
Let BET show you the what, why, and how of setting achievable goals for your business